Well, the history of steam train goes back to at least the 1850s, if not in fact before. Really quite basic machines, and of course over the years they've become much more sophisticated. But unfortunately, with the advent of diesel, there was a very rapid removal of steam and in replacement by diesels and electric engine in the 1960s.
Here at Mid-Hants Railway there are many different kinds of these steam-powered beasts. These days they're used to ferry passengers up and down the Watercress line. But what does it take to get them moving?
Well, the firebox is the heart of the boiler, which gets incredibly fierce when the engine's going along, and that of course heats the water which is in the boiler. So eventually the water becomes steam, and it's the steam which drives the engine along. Of course, integral to this is the fireman, who has to keep on stoking the fire, appropriate to the level of the track. If he's going uphill, you have to put a lot of coal in. That's his main role. Alongside that, he also has to keep a very close eye on how much water is in the boiler. And if it starts running too low, he has to run the injectors to push more water into the boiler and keep it all safe. Well, the boiler works by using the heat from the firebox. There's a lot of water in a boiler, probably about 800 to 1,000 gallons, and it will get that incredibly hot. Unlike a kettle where the excess steam can just blow off, steam can't escape from a boiler, and it gets more and more pressure. And eventually, when there is sufficient pressure, then that is when the driver can open the regulator and allow steam to go into the cylinders to actually drive the engine forwards. The piston is actually located towards the front of the engine, on either side, and some engines actually have a third in the middle. As the driver wishes the engine to move forward, he opens the regulator, which lets steam into the valve system, which fits immediately above the piston. The steam forces the piston to move, which is directly connected to the main driving wheels, and that will turn the wheels round in a huge way compared with the pistons of an ordinary motor car. The driver's three prime tools which are important. First of all, one called a reverser, which is usually in the form of a big wheel, and some children get teased because that might look a little bit like a steering wheel. But when the train is ready to go, the driver moves his reverser wheel, he releases it, and assuming we're going forwards, he'll turn it forwards. The further he turns this wheel, then it allows steam to go into the piston for a longer part of each cycle. That will give it far more power, and you'll need that for when he's starting off from a station, or indeed if he's going up a steep hill. It's the regulator, and the regulator is a very big complicated valve in the top of the boiler, and of course an equally important one is when he wants to stop. Quite a small looking lever, very easy to operate. He will reduce the power on the regulator, and then all he has to do is to pull this little lever here, such a simple thing, and that allows air into the vacuum brake system, which will put the brakes on over the whole train. And in fact, probably the stopping is the hardest part, because if he stops a little bit too soon, he's got to get permission from the guard before he'll be allowed to move forwards to the stop in the correct point.
So as you can see, it takes much more than steam to get these wheels rolling.